Everyone, welcome to FBA TV. My name's Hayden. In this video, we're going to talk about seven-figure sellers and massive sellers and the things that they have in common. So, if you haven't already, go back and look at some old videos because I interview a lot of figures. I interview a lot of sellers. A lot of them are seven figures. A lot of them are very, very successful. Okay, even the high six-figure sellers, the medium six-figure sellers, they're all very successful. It's not all about turnover. Remember, it's about profit. So we're not just basing it off turnover, but generally, I'm talking about the medium to high six figures to seven figure sellers. Anyone that's really successful in this game, anyone that's pushing figures, anyone that's making profit, they tend to have a few things in common. There's a few traits that I've picked up from the people that I've interviewed, from the people that I speak to, because I speak and get coached by seven figures sellers. Some of them are my mentors as well. Here's what I've picked up. Here's the common traits. There's quite a fair few traits in them that I've noticed. Not all of them, but most of them have these common traits. Do you have these traits? Let me know in the comments below. So here's what I've picked up. The number one most common trait that I see in very big sellers, or sellers that are big sellers that are doing well, right? They're analytical. They're very analytical. So what does that mean? That means that they track all of their outgoings down to a T. They track their profit down to a T. They track their best sellers. They track their replens. They've got systems and processes down to a T to make sure that they are growing consistently, to make sure that they can afford to improve, to make sure that they can afford to grow, and just to grow the business. They are analytical. Like, I'm struggling right now to think of a seller. I can think of one. Apart from that, I can't think of any other seven-figure seller that isn't interested in the small details, that isn't interested in the analytics of the business. You've got to understand how your business is performing. You've got to understand the ins and the outs of your business, the margins that you're making, the profit that you're making. A lot of people just run these basic softwares like Seller Toolkit, Seller Board, and things like that. They're good. Like they're a good software, Seller Toolkit, Seller Board, stuff like that. They're good, right? But they're not tracking everything down to a T, right? What the big sellers are doing is they're getting a professional profit and loss. They're getting a professional profit and loss taken from their accountants. Okay, they're getting this sorted, and also they track things on multiple spreadsheets. They've got their own systems and processes that they are creating, not just for their profit and loss, so they exactly know how much they're making, not just roughly from these normal softwares that are good, by the way, and we all use them. They still use them, but they're also going that next level so that they can track their profit down to a T. On top of that, on top of the analytics of the actual profit and loss, what they also do is track their best sellers and their worst sellers down to a T. They've got their own systems for this. They're making sure that their replen system is down to a T. Most of them have created their own replen system. Most of them created their own replen system, their own software, so that they can track their best sellers, track their high performers, their low performers, and they've usually got a strategy. For optimizing their sales. And this is the next point I want to move on to. Most of the big sellers that I see have got they've got a way of optimizing their sales. So let me give you an example. They're either hitting things really hard with small margins and doing very high volume, and they don't do anything else. So I know a few sellers that do £200,000-300,000 a month, and they do tiny margins. I mean, like 5%. But that's what works for them. And because they've got the systems and the procedures in place, they're taking, they're making the most of the benefits for that. For example, the cashback, the air miles, and things like that. And they've then gone and got themselves a warehouse, for example, where they're actually paying not 50p per prep, but they've got it down to about 18p, 20p per prep, because they're doing such volume, and they've put the systems and processes, once again, I said, in place, as we've already spoken about them being analytical, that they've worked out what they need to do to make the most of these small margins. Or they're doing something else. So they're doing high ticket items, high profit, and they shift less products, but they're also figuring out a way to shift enough to make themselves profitable. And they don't do two things. They don't do small margins, shift loads of products, medium margins, shift loads of products, high margins, shift little products. They've got their one strategy. It's either high ticket and they're doing low volume, high ticket, they're doing high volume, low ticket, low margin, they're doing high volume, or they're getting sort of average margins in between. They don't chop and change. A lot of people I say, oh, I'm all over the place. Some of my products are low profit, some are high profit, some are medium profit. Straight away, I don't even need to ask how big they are.
What's going on? Quick introduction here, just to introduce my new sponsor. So I'm now sponsored by Prepared For You. I've been using this prep center for a fair few months now, and they've been fantastic. Okay, if you are interested in trying them out, I've got a link below. Click on the link below, the Prepared For You link, and you can get £50 off your first month with them. Type in Hayden into the coupon code when you're signing up to your desired package, and you can get £50 off. As I say, really recommend them. I've enjoyed their service, and yeah, very efficient, very communicational, and I will see you in the next video. Let's dive in.
I know they're a small seller because there's nothing in place. They haven't set specific boundaries so that, of what profit they want, what margin they want, what specific strategy they're doing, to actually then build a business around that, to build systems and processes and figure out all the analytics around that of how they can actually get to the next level. Because if you want to do 200-300 grand a month, that's big. That's big, you know. Like, think how much that is. That's £3 a day or something, you know. Like, that's a lot of money. You can't just do this off a whim. You can't do what you're doing now. If you're doing 15 grand a month turnover, you can't expect to do 300,000 doing the same what you're doing now. You can't just buy more stock, hire a few VAs. You've got to get these processes down to a T, and that's some of the biggest coincidental things that I see in these big sellers. They've got things down to a T. They're very analytical. They know exactly what their plan is. They know exactly the benefits they're getting. They know exactly what strategy they go after, and they don't mix around. They don't mix. They don't chop and change. That's the people. That's what I see. That's the people I see. Now, that's not to say you have to do what these guys are doing, by the way. You may not want to do 7 figures, but that's for the people that want to do it. You've got to get analytical. You've got to figure out exactly what your strategy is and build systems and processes around that. That's what I believe the big sellers are doing. That's the traits of the big sellers that I see. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you in the next one.